In this episode, we'll be talking to Larry Ryan about updates to the Common Operating Picture. He'll be sharing his screen, and so the episode is best watched on video rather than listened to as audio. I hope you enjoy it. This episode of the Tactics Meeting is brought to you in part by Gallagher Marine Systems. Gallagher Marine Systems is the industry's most comprehensive source of full-service, in-depth compliance support. And by Portage-based Solutions, makers of Easy 213. They have been helping a variety of firms in our industry with custom application and database development for close to 15 years.
So it's time for the Tactics Meeting, a podcast where we talk to subject matter experts about response tactics and technology. And look what we have back today. Larry Ryan from NJ Resources, who was the very first guest on the very first podcast that we did at the beginning of the COVID epidemic, when we didn't know what the hell we were doing. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you, Dan. Good to be back. And it's a different situation. We didn't have video then, right?
No, it was audio only. We did audio only, and for about
I preferred that
year, right? People want to see your smiling face.
Oh yeah,
yeah, they do, and they want to watch you drink tea.
Well, thanks for having me back, though.
Well, we just did the WSMIC drill this last April 11th, and the Common Operating Picture, which is really our topic today, which it was our topic on episode 1, but things have changed, right? We've improved, we've modified, we've iterated, and have a process. And now that we have video, I think it would be cool to show some images. But the Common Operating Picture, when we do the hot wash after these drills, is always one of the things that people really love. And I think it's something that people, as they're getting ready to do their exercises, or if they're planning for how they're going to get a COP displayed during a response, need a little guidance, need a little help. And so that's what we're here to do today. So we did that drill, and we decided to do some different layers. And why don't you tell us kind of what your thought process was as we started putting the new Common Operating Picture together?
So for the drill, it was, I guess, Pillar Point, which is in Straits of Juan de Fuca, and a big part of the drill was not only the situation, bringing the situation status, keeping it up to date in the Common Operating Picture, but we also wanted to give wildlife a stage and let the work that they're doing be presented in the Common Operating Picture. A lot of times that data is in the COP. However, it's just some small icons on the map, and all of the work that they're doing, the reports, a summary of their observations, that information doesn't always get into the Common Operating Picture. And so it was an experiment to give that an opportunity to be part of the bigger picture. So if you'd like, I could share my screen right now. This is the Common Operating Picture that we used for the exercise. And the goal here is always to provide an authoritative, it's not necessarily a picture, right? Because it's not static, but we want to provide an authoritative situation awareness tool that's like the most timely information about the incident, the response, what are the resources doing out there, what are their tasks, how much boom is in the water. And in addition to that, off to the right here, this was later on in the exercise after we, a few hours after a simulated wildlife observation, we had a report come in and we presented this data alongside the situation picture of the response. So we have two maps here, and I'm not saying this is the most orthodox way of doing things, but it worked. Uh, there was a lot of information available, and we wanted to make sure that the viewers had access to it in one location. So over here you have the situation uh, picture of the oil observation overflight. We have our task forces responding. If you zoom in, you can see boom placement. We have our safety zone, which changed throughout the course of the day. It moved in relation to the oil spill itself. And over here on the right, we have an image of the wildlife observation. And this map is showing the different points and areas where Washington DOE focused. And the way I built this is you could click on these different locations and zoom into that area and get information about that particular area in another panel here. So you can read what their observations were in this freshwater bay. If we went to the Salt Creek area, it zooms to that location. You can see the icons representing the birds that were observed there, and get the information. And then they produced this impact assessment summary, which is a long report, and we picked out the important information. I worked closely with them, and I was able to publish this to the Common Operating Picture as well, utilizing one of the widgets available to me on the operations dashboard.
So when you see these wildlife icons, if you click on them, is there other information there?
Yeah, the attributes for the
And so we decided that, which widgets to put in the screen. One of the hard parts is, right, you're trying to display this on, a single projector screen or on a television, and there's only so much real estate. So deciding what to display, there's just so much information in the available to display in the common operating picture that it can get pretty busy. And I like the way we decided, since there was such a wildlife focus in the exercise, to break those layers out into their own widgets for display. The the situation map and the cop were all displayed in the situation unit, but you're able to provide a URL and a username and password so that anybody can just open a web browser and go into the COP, not in a way that they can edit it, but in a way that they can view it and select the things that they want to see. And so, for instance, I was the planning section chief during this exercise, and I displayed the common operating picture throughout the day for the unified command and selected the things that were important to them. And so if you walked into the unified command meeting room and looked at the projection of the COP, it was a little less busy, but a little bit more zoomed out than the display that was being shown in the situation unit. So what is the limitation? How many people can log in and be able to see their own vision of the cop?
We determine that when we're planning the exercise or when we're building the response. So it's scalable. For our exercise, we had a limited number of viewers. We just provide viewer licenses for the common operating picture, and that's just something that we can scale up or down depending upon your needs. Um, as you mentioned, though, each viewer does have the ability to turn layers on and off and focus on what they need to focus on to answer the questions that they need to answer and help make the best decisions for the response, which is really the goal of the common operating picture, to be a decision making tool, helps command, helps operations, helps planning. It's not going to clean up the oil spill. but it is going to help make the decisions that will clean up the oil spill.
Unless we dragged your laptop to the oil, then the oil might cling to it, right? That would it would do that.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause, that those Dell laptops, their oil will feel it, but only once. Only get
Is
to
that
do
what's
that.
on the Marcos? The Marcos are made of old recycled Dells.
They might be made of recycled Dells because what else are you gonna do with a Dell?
That's why I run different. I don't run a Dell.
Exactly my point. So, like, if I'm in the protection group, really what I want to see is the trajectory and the GRPs and the vessels that are assigned to my group. Can I filter down like that? Can I
Yeah,
try?
you can. You can. In fact, I have an example here of a common operating picture that has a few more panels associated with the map, and I dedicated one to the trajectory. So this would be running all of the time. We have this autoplay video of a simulation. This is all fake data. This isn't happening anywhere in the world right now. This is
So
actually
these
though
these are alternate facts.
these are exactly. So I'm using WebGNOME to to build a simulation, and I built a 5-day trajectory, and then exported out the data and to build some fake overflights. And so what I did was in this panel, I'm showing the video. I took the ICS 209 budget table and brought that image in, and then I took some snapshots of the trajectory at 24, 48, and 72, and I just made this little storyboard and brought it in, and it can be popped out and you can focus on it. Um, so that's one way you could look at the data.
Ooh, pretty pictures.
Yeah. Um, this common operating picture also has Boom that's deployed that you can click on and zoom to. And then we're showing a couple of infographics here. This pie chart is showing what our plan strategies were based on the 232. We had 44, and at this point in the response, we've got 16 remaining, and we've completed 28. And how much boom and feet do we have out in the field? Well, that's what this um, uh, panel is describing. And these numbers obviously would change with the status of the boom. So if we get word that some of our planned GRPs are complete, then I would change the status of those GRPs, and then these counts would all change.
I like the red green pie chart infographic showing how many strategies have been completed and how many strategies are yet to go.
Yeah,
That really tells a story very quickly.
very quickly, right? And you don't have to try to, for some people who may not use maps quite often, this information that you're looking at is also available here in the map by clicking and finding out information. Right, this just summarizes the data very quickly so someone can answer a question. Hey, how much boom is out there? Or, what's left? And this pie chart is showing, again, these are fake numbers, but just a relationship between the volume spilled or reported spilled and the oily water that's been recovered. And this is minus any science as to how much oil would you actually recover in the oily water. This is just straight numbers right now. But if we were actually doing a response, the scientists that could calculate those numbers would be on scene, and they'd be able to provide those numbers, and we could update this with real information, with real facts about the estimated recovery.
And so like the mass balance numbers that we get out of Nome, how much oil has evaporated or will evaporate over time, estimations for emulsification or shoreline impact versus free floating oil. you could add those numbers to the pie chart.
Yeah, exactly. That's what this, you can get this little budget table out of WebGnome. Take these numbers, bring them into your GIS, and build a similar table here, and just watch it move throughout the exercise as the response or the actual event or the exercise evolves. We could manipulate these numbers kind of like a gauge, and you just see the gauge moving. You'd watch this budget table move as well.
And I could hide that set of panels if I wanted to, right? If I just want to see the map, or if I just want to see the map and the icon list.
Yeah, you can just pop things out and just take a look at the map itself. You can zoom in, click on, uh, find out information about that particular GRP. Yeah, and then just bring it in, bring it back.
When it's
And
so it's a matter of getting the data, right? So garbage in, garbage out. Where in a real response, or a drill for that matter, where's the data coming from? How do you get the data that you need to populate the top?
working in situation and sitting at a table and mapping and ma- expecting this data and the maps to stay current by just staying in your own little area isn't going you're going to be sitting there all day with a blank map. So you have to get up, move around. You have to work with the different sections. So I am constantly going between operations, wildlife, and planning, and I'm checking in with the situation lead if I'm not the situation lead. I'm checking in with my liaison in operations. I'm doing this throughout the course of the exercise and in a real response, um, and gathering information, vetting that information, and publishing it when I know that it's true.
Now you've done this
S-
remotely a bunch of times. When you're sitting at home in your luxurious office in New Mexico,
Yeah.
um, how does that work? Because it's been pretty successful, but what does it take to get that information when you're not in the room?
The way I just explained it, moving from section to section physically, I just do the same thing virtually. So, uh, most of the virtual responses that I've participated in and exercises have been hosted on a Teams, uh, uh, on MS Teams. Either NJR built the team or I joined an existing team, and you just don't stay in your own group's meeting. You just bounce from meeting to meeting, gathering information and truthing it, and then pushing it up when you know it's valid and truth.
At that transmontane drill we did last November, um, I think it was the transmontane drill. Whatever the last one where you were virtual. I brought an extra laptop and a dedicated owl conferencing camera
Right.
and set it in operations and told all the group supervisors, this is Larry. Larry's doing the common operating picture. Everything you do, talk to Larry.
Yeah, it
And
was great.
it was, and we set the resource unit leader right next to it as well. So there's the ops guys who are actually making changes. You're getting the information in real times, updating the cop, and Brianna Yearwood from Gen West was there updating the resource list so that everything was in sync. And that worked pretty well.
Yeah, it really does. And I'm really glad you mentioned Brianna because she's a pro. And anytime we have an opportunity to work together, I feel like we both help each other in generating really great reports and informative tools that people can use to do the job that they need to do. So yeah, that's exactly right. And what's great too is a lot of times I'm work if if I'm not in person, when you do put me at a table, I'm usually working with the people that I used to work with on the boats. So I'm sitting with the operations, and these are people that I've known for 15, 20 years, but in a different capacity, right? I used to work on the boats in Puget Sound, and so these are great relationships that I have, and we work well together.
But one of the things I so much like about having you doing the COP is because you spent years driving oil spill response vessels and go into responses and exercises. You know what to expect, what is supposed to be happening. And so when you see a piece of information that's blank, you're like, "Hey, I know you did this, or planning it, or
Yeah.
it's I know something's happening. So tell me." If I just go hire a GIS guy, the best GIS guy in the world, who's never heard of oil spill response, it's not going to be the same. They can't keep up. They don't know what to map. They don't know what makes sense. When somebody tells me, "Oh yeah, we're taking the park responder over and they're going to do, G work on GRP blah blah blah." It's like, "No, they're not." Right? That big ocean skimmer is not going into that creek. So, you want to rethink that, because you know what the boats are, you know what's going on. And what you spent, was it the Louisiana responder you were on during Deepwater Horizon? You were there for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, and thanks for that, Dan. That is something that NJR, we really want to make people aware of, that there is a difference, right? There are a lot of GIS professionals out there that know so much more, and they're great. And I love working with them. I'm always learning something. But it is great when you can bring 10 plus years of actual spill response field work to this profession as well. It helps inform the products. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. And I did two uh, Cascade tours in during Deepwater. The first time I was in Grand Isle running the Quick Strike for about 6 weeks, and I gained a lot of really valuable experience running that boat every day for 6 weeks, 12 plus hours a day in really hot weather, and chasing oil. The second time I was down there, I helped bring one of our big boats in for decon into Mobile, Alabama. So I spent maybe a week out on the Florida responder, and then we brought her in and deconned her, and I worked in Mobile for 5 6 weeks helping decon that boat, and standing like I think it was 6 to 6, so 1800 to 0600 watch, and I was just walking the the fields in Mobile where things were being deconned, and I was assisting when necessary, and jumping in and cleaning boom and cleaning HPs, or hydraulic packs. And so yeah, it was a great experience. Speaking of deep water, um, and big responses, that that long ago, what was that, 2010? So I mean, we're approaching almost 15 years, right? 14 years ago, and the technology has changed so much. But I read recently that during deep water, there were at times almost 30 different common operating pictures. There were that many different maps that people were trying to get information from and answer questions, and everybody wondering, wait, is this an authoritative picture of what's happening? And so that's the goal. We really just want to stress how important it is to have one map. You can do your work at your desk. It's really difficult to break people of habits of working in Google Earth. There's great free tools out there, and you can do your plans. But let's make sure that information gets to the right and one common operating picture.
Because you're so right. And that's funny because, they coined this term common operating picture, which um, it was just another name for a situation map. But the idea is that there can be only one, right? There's one common map that's telling a story, map and other data as you are displaying it here. And it is really hard to keep ops from going off and doing their own map. If they can't if it's not easy for them to update the map and get the information on it that they need, they'll just do something else. And
Hmm.
that's why I like to sit you down right in operations and display at least a version of that map right there for the ops section chief, because it's the only way to keep it common. The minute that's not what's happening, ops will just take out a nautical chart and start drawing on it, and you won't know what's going on.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
And how do
have
I
to.
know? Because I've been that guy.
Exactly. You do have to do that kind of work, but you do need someone like me, who knows the questions to ask. What kind of boom? What kind of boats are we? Where are we working? What are the task forces doing? Are there strike teams out there? Those are the kind of, you just have to get in there and work with them and let them know that you're trying to get their information to the incident command and assist with the overall goal of cleaning up this, either simulated oil spill or the real deal.
And then lately, layers for community air monitoring, which isn't ops, but is a huge part of our response for keeping the public and responders safe and keeping the public informed. And
Hmm.
that's a whole other layer of map data with air monitoring readings and calculations that is super important. And it's not something that you can just build on the fly. And so you and I have been talking about um, pre-building some of these situation maps, pre-building the um, icons and loading the data in the back end. We talk about having uh, a dark website warmed up for the Joint Information Center. Well, this is a common operating picture that's warmed up for the operating area so that you can quickly bring it to life. So what are the options that we have for having this common operating picture kind of pre-built for a geographic area for an area of responsibility?
Yeah. So what NJR is developing is working with the client and first defining an area where we want to focus so we can pre-build a common operating picture that has the base features, right? Your base maps, what what ES environmental sensitivity data is available, what socioeconomic data is available in that region. Let's populate the OSRO data for for that region. Let's put everything that we can in that area and have it loaded in either a map uh, that you're hosting as a client and you give me the keys to, so I can help you manage that data and build a common operating picture, or NJR will build that map and that common operating picture for you and have all of the dynamic layers ready to go once an exercise or a actual response happens. So there's two options. One is you can host the data. You can give NJR access to that data and build it out for you and have it ready to go. And then when it's time, pardon me, Dan. When it's time, we come in and drive it for you. or NJR hosts it. You have access to it as well, and we build it out and drive it for you when necessary. So those are the two options.
Well, I like option A because I'm a control freak.
Hmm.
So if I
And
wanted to
you
host
have
it
a lot of
myself,
database back. You have a tremendous background in databases, so you're familiar with the background, and it's not just control. I mean, you want to have some input in your product. So I that's why we have the two options. It's probably a better one for you.
yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. That's the option that Wismic is going to
Right, but then there
pursue.
are some clients who they don't have a GIS staff, they don't have um, a background in it. They just need that tool that helps them during a response, and that's regulator recommended um, to show during an activity, an exercise, or the actual spill, and that's where we would
Regulator
host
recommend.
it.
Ask your regulator if the common operating picture is right for you. What?
Well, it is recommended as a tool, for spill management and response operations. To have this uh, common operating picture, this COP.
Warning may cause GIS dependency.
Exactly. NJR dependency.
GIS dependency.
Yeah. No, that's what we're striving to do to help our clients to be ready, because a lot of times, as you know, uh, these things happen at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you need these emergencies happen at inopportune moments, and it's great to have a tool that's about 80% ready to go. It's the only thing missing is the accident, and then we just add that as it evolves.
Bring your own accident. Common operating picture, operate accident not included.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. All right, Larry. Well, that's all the time we have, but thanks for coming on the show and showing us the updates. It's pretty cool. I'll be getting with you to set up our preload sometime in the near future.
Yeah, that's going to be great, Dan, and thanks for having me back. Congratulations on what, a couple of years now of really providing some valuable information to the response community, and it's always great working with you. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Larry.
All right.